This is the most important part of the video, so whatever you do, don't skip this part. I have added into this video chapters so that you can easily navigate through the contents, watching the things that might interest you and just skipping the things that you might not care about. This is not a first impressions video. I received this saddle the last week of September, and I hunted with it now 9 to 10 times throughout October. I have about 35 to 36 hours in this saddle, and so hopefully with the amount of time that I've been able to spend with the Rev saddle, that I will be able to minimize the learning curve for you and ultimately help you decide whether or not this might be a saddle that fits your hunting style. The thing that caught my attention about the Rev saddle is it's not your standard sling style saddle. This resembles more of a rock climbing harness or a recreational saddle than it does your sling style saddle. And the question is, can Aero Hunter bring a rock climbing or a recreational type saddle to the hunting industry and it still be as comfortable as the sling style? And long story short, my quick answer to that is yes. The new Revolution saddle is what I call the little brother to Aero Hunter's very first saddle that they brought to the hunting industry in 2013, and that is this guy right here. This is the Aero Hunter Evolution or Evo saddle, and as you can see, it is an absolute tank. This thing is ginormous, but there are some similarities between the Evolution and the Revolution. They have brought back this year some things that you saw on their original saddle, such as the rigging plates. The 11mm rope is about the same, and also the concept of having the first two-panel saddle available. The idea of a top panel and a bottom panel, or a top support and a bottom support, and being able to adjust where the pressure lands on the top or the bottom via these connecting straps. And so what I want to do is I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the specs and the design of the Revolution, and then we will get on to the Taj Mahal and I will show you this thing in action. The Revolution saddle comes in at $349. It's offered in Aero Hunter's 3 standard sizes that cover children's sizes all the way up to larger adults. The advertised weight is 2.8 pounds. Mine has come in slightly heavier, and that also includes the dump pouch that I've added, the gear holder here. It comes in with my Versa hanger and then also a platform hanger from Genesis 3D Printing. It comes with a Cobra Raptor style buckle that can be adjusted very, very easily. And as always, anything Aero Hunter related has been overbuilt for safety. Everything on this saddle has at least a 4,000 to an 8,000 pound rating. And I mentioned this in my Shrike video. Whenever you hunt out of anything Aero Hunter, you have absolutely zero safety concerns of whether or not this thing is going to hold your weight at hunting height. Before I put the saddle on, let me break down the 3 main components that make up the Revolution saddle. Up at the very top, the top portion of the saddle, you have your back band. I want to point out here, you can see the stars and the blue. This is a removable pad, much like the leg straps. Of course, this one's attached via a Velcro attachment point right here on the back. You can undo those Velcro straps and then you can remove the back band. The legs, the leg portions, they just simply pull off. You can see that it's attached via Velcro. I hunted one hunt without the back support and the leg supports, and it didn't make too much of a difference to me with the legs. I decided to keep the back because I felt like the padding on the back, it kept these straps right here off of my back, or off of my iliac crest and all that, just all that much more, the thickness of that. And I felt like it aided in kind of reducing any potential hip pinch or pressure that would go across your iliac crest or any portion of your back there. So the leg straps, I didn't find it made that much a difference with them on or off. And when I first saw that it was Velcro, immediately I had red flags, because anything Velcro in hunting is not good. And so I was a little skeptical about that, but as I used it over 35 hours now, somewhere around there, I have had zero problems with this Velcro coming loose or this Velcro making any noise. So I attribute this, much like any of your high-end backpacks, your Kafaru, your QU, Exo Mountain, Badlands, that use Velcro on their yoke system to kind of hold it down. It doesn't make noise even when you load it with a lot of weight. That's kind of my experience with the Velcro on the Rev saddle. So up here at the top, you can see that the top portion, it is basically comprised of 3 main support straps. Of course, the back padding goes right into the lower portion of your back. It supports you nicely. And there's MOLLE webbing on the top. There's MOLLE webbing on the middle. You can see I have my Genesis 3D printing platform hanger from my Predator XL and also my X-Wing platform from Latitude. Down on the bottom, there is one large loop for the MOLLE webbing right here if you decide to utilize that. And while I'm here, let me go ahead and point out to you the dump pouch that they sent. MOLLE webbing up top, and then it looks small, but once you get in here, it actually is a pleated dump pouch, which expands. And I found that very helpful for me when I'm utilizing my Bowman ring of steps in the X-Wing platform. I have found that I can easily use or put 3 ring of steps in here. Actually, I put 4 in here when I was climbing with it the last time. So as I'm going up the tree, my Bowman ring of steps fits in here very, very nicely. And you can put whatever you want in there. That's just to kind of demonstrate how I utilized this dump pouch. Of course, the top portion of the saddle is where your waist belt is. Simply Raptor style buckles as is common with Aero Hunter. Nothing special there, nothing not to like there. And I want you to notice the contour of this upper portion. You can see right there, even in this bottom strap, it was designed, it came out and then it took a hard curve to kind of fit the shape of a waist. And I have found that to be very, very comfortable in my experience. It did take me a while to navigate how to adjust the pressure on the top via the bottom and then also the middle. I'll discuss that here in a little bit. So here is the top portion again. Now I want you to notice that the way that you adjust the pressure on the top portion of this saddle is much like a bridge loop. Each one, the legs and the top portion, they have webbing straps right here that you can see that are adjustable. It's adjustable versus this frame buckle, Austria Alpine frame buckle. You saw that on the Strike as well. And to adjust it, simply all you have to do is pull it, and you can see it will bring the rigging plate or the rigger plate all the way up, and you can pull that some more, tighten that down all the way if you want. And you can see it has shortened that considerably. Now to loosen that, you just pull up and put some pressure, and you got quite a bit of play on that top portion. And now you can see that it's let a lot out of the top portion. That is how you're able to adjust the pressure on the top and the bottom. I'll show you that more in detail. You have that on both sides. Now moving on, we're going to jump down to the bottom portion, and that is your leg supports. I'm going to pull this up through the middle just so you can see this. This bottom portion here, it goes right under, I guess you would say right under your butt cheek, and it rests upon the back side of your thighs. And then as you put pressure on it, of course, this will contour around, giving you support. Much like the top portion, you have control over how tight you can make these leg straps. Again, the same frame buckles, the Austrian Alpine frame buckles, and the same type of webbing strap. You just simply pull like so, and then you can induce the pressure on your leg straps. So just to reiterate, there are 3 sections that make up the Rev saddle. You have the top section, which is your back support, fully adjustable. You have the bottom section, which is your leg supports. Again, these are fully adjustable. And then you have the middle section right here, which is just some additional support for your backside. When you're sitting down, you can feel that. And this is also adjustable via these buckles and this strap right here to change and to manipulate the pressure. There are 3 sections, and each section can be adjusted to let out or take in the pressure. So let's talk about putting the Rev saddle on. How do you get this thing on? It is so different from a sling style saddle. What I have come to do is basically I will hold the saddle from in front of me, but hold it from behind. I will always loosen up the leg supports. The reason being is because you have to step through the leg support. I will hold the saddle from here, and then when I lift my leg over it, I can easily step or slip my foot in between the bridge and also that leg support. I'll step over with the other side, bring it in, and then I slide it right up. And of course, go ahead and buckle the saddle like so. And I have found that when you put the saddle on and you put it up into the small of your back where it needs to go, that I have not had any problems with saddle sag when I'm walking in a long term or going in deeper into the woods than just kind of like, let's say 200 yards from the truck or something like that. Now, when you figure out your preference, whether you want to walk with the saddle on or just pack it in your bag, that's completely up to you. Some of the longer hunts, when I got down out of the tree, I just took it off, shoved it in my Badlands MRK2, and I walked out. Other hunts, I walked out with it, wearing it, and some hunts I walked into the woods wearing it, and some I walked in packing it in my bag. Either way, that's a personal preference. You'll just have to figure that out for yourself. But now that we're at the tree, there are some things that I would recommend you doing first and foremost. When I first wore this saddle and I tried to climb utilizing my lineman's belt, again, there's no designated lineman's loops like on a traditional sling saddle. The lineman's connection point is the big loop here on your rigger plate. And I remember the first time I climbed the tree with it, I hooked up my lineman's rope and I went to throw it up. And as I leaned back into it, immediately all of my weight was being pulled from the leg portion of this saddle, because when I walked in, I had my legs, the leg support cinched all the way up, and the top support, it actually had some slack in it. And so when I went to lean back into my lineman's rope, it actually pulled from the back of my legs, and I was like, this is sketchy. I do not like this at all. So what I'm trying to do here is minimize your learning curve. This is what you need to do when you get to the tree. The first thing you need to do is you need to make sure that your top portion up here, your waistband, is completely cinched up as far as it will go. You can see I just took out about 12 inches of slack. Pull that up as far as you can go on both of them. And now what you're doing is you're bringing those rigging plates all the way up to basically your waistline. When you go to lean back into your lineman's rope, it's pulling from the top of your waist, not all the way down here at the bottom of your leg support. And I have found that it is very comfortable climbing when you go ahead and you cinch tight your top support straps. Also, when you go and you tighten these things up like that, you can see that it puts those rigger plates up here by my waist, but it also puts it in front of me, so there's no squeeze. It's super, super comfortable when you do it like that. Once you get to hunting height, there are several things that you can do to maximize comfort. You have adjustments to be made on the top portion, the leg support, and also the middle section. But one of the things I found that helped the most was adjusting my tether height. I started off with a high tether, and now immediately when I get to the tree, I drop my tether down to about the middle of my chest right here. And for me, I just found that helps with the overall comfort, the overall feel. When I am here in the leaning position and then I drop down into the sitting position, what I found helped the most with where the leg support straps landed was by lowering this tether. If this tether was up here and I sit down into that sitting position, this strap right here landed in a very uncomfortable spot for me personally. And by lowering the tether, it also changed where I could shift the leg support on this saddle by opening it up just a little bit and dropping it down like so. Now, in the leaning position and the sitting position, the bottom leg supports, they don't change for me. I run the leg supports wide open. Now, if I'm leaning, what I do is I open up the top portion right here. I'll go ahead and I'll open this up all the way until I have probably about a 3 or a 4-inch tail right here. Also, while I'm adjusting this, you'll notice that when you get this saddle, that up here at this frame buckle, they have a piece of cloth or some type of strap sewn in there. And I think what that is for is to help reduce some of the jingle. These frame buckles have potential to make noise. I have not had any noise on these like I did with the Shrike. I pointed that out on the Shrike. And I think it's because of this little cloth piece that they put right here on the saddle. But at the same time, I don't feel like these frame buckles adjust the webbing as easy as the Shrike did. So after this review, I'm probably just going to cut these off anyway in hopes that that will help slide, you know, the webbing through these frame buckles a little bit easier. But you can see as I let out the webbing strap for the top portion and I lean back, and I know I'm not on a platform, but for me, right here is absolute money. It is super, super comfortable. And one of the things, or one of the places that this Rev saddle shines the most in is the fact that there is absolutely no pressure, no straps, nothing near the ball joint of my hip, which is right here. In all of the hunts, at no point in time have my hips gotten fatigued or worn out or any pressure point near them. And to me, that's a pretty significant gain. This saddle eliminates any hip pinch, any hip fatigue. As soon as you put it on and you go to sit in it like this, I have a solid amount of support on the bottom of my thighs, the back of my thighs, and then of course I have great support right here in the small of my back. I can mess with those pressure settings by pulling this in or letting it out, and then I can also adjust it by letting out of the middle section, which to me, I generally keep that middle section while I'm leaning completely tightened. I don't have to adjust that at all. Let me go ahead and point out that there was a learning curve with this saddle. When I first tried it out, I'm like, okay, I can see the benefits, but I'm not too sure for long-term comfort. There is a learning curve with this saddle, 100% for sure. So I'm trying my best to put some stuff out here that will help you minimize your learning curve, you know, with this particular saddle. I have found that if I have the leg support on this saddle too tight and there's too much pressure going to the back of my thighs, I have found that that will bring some fatigue to my leg muscles on the back. I remember I was messing around, I had these leg supports pretty tight, and I had what I thought was a doe come in, and I was at a angle that was kind of cockeyed, and I was getting ready to shoot, and my leg started twitching and quivering something fierce, and there's just a lot of pressure on there when I was leaning. Since then, that was one of my first hunts, I have learned how to make the pressure on the top portion coincide with the pressure on the bottom portion. And I'm telling you right now, in the leaning position, this saddle is as comfortable leaning, if not more comfortable, than most of the other saddles that I have tried. Now, you guys saw my review on the Aero Hunter Strike. No matter what I did, there was a strap that landed right on my iliac crest, or there was a strap that touched the ball joint of my hip. And I wanted so much to like it, I just could not get comfortable long term. This Rev saddle, to me, blows it out of the water because there is absolutely no pressure, no strap, nothing touching the ball joint of my hip. And even though right now my iliac crest lands somewhere right in the middle here, what I have found with this top portion is because you have 3 straps and then also a back pad, even though you have a strap or some type of material touching your iliac crest, it does not want to put pressure on it and make it uncomfortable. It reminds me of the Custom Gear Modifications Cobra. I had a strap that came over my iliac crest, but because of the way it was designed, it did not put a lot of pressure right on that iliac crest, and it was fairly comfortable. This saddle, again, in the leaning position, I could do this all day long. I am super comfortable, no pressure on my hips, no pressure on the iliac crest, tons of support. And if I wanted to manipulate that, I could open up the middle section, drop my leg support even more, and then raise the back portion up even more. For me, with the middle section all the way closed in the leaning position, a 4-inch tail and the legs wide open, all day long. This is super, super comfortable. Now let's talk the sitting position. Hopefully I can get through this tonight without losing too much light. From the leaning position to the sitting position, the only change that I make, the legs are wide open, the leg supports are wide open. The only change I make is I will go ahead and I will open up the top portion wide open. So I'll just break my weight, I'll pull that strap, I'll do that on both sides like you see here. And then when I do that, it will allow me just to slip down, hopefully not out of frame. It will allow me to slip right down, knees into the tree, and I have dialed in comfort. The only other change that I have made in the sitting position, besides opening up the top support all the way, the legs all the way, is I will reach back, and on the middle section, I will simply take my fingers and I'll let about 2 to 3 inches out of that. And what that does is it just kind of redistributes the pressure, redistributes any weight. And I have found that to be super, super comfortable in the sitting position. One additional piece of information in regards to the sitting position: if, let's say, you're sitting all day and you just want to change some pressure and just move around a little bit, you can take the back portion and literally slide it under your butt and treat it almost like you would the Latitude Method 2 or a regular sling style saddle, and it fits just like they would. And you can manipulate pressure by doing that. You can see that in the video right here. This is just something else that I did just trying to experiment with this particular saddle. The thing that I want to reiterate the most is the ability to adjust this saddle. Now, if you are not going to take the time to learn how this saddle transitions pressure and take the time to really dial in the comfort, you're going to be frustrated with it. It took me several hunts to even get to the place where I understood how these rigging or rigger plates work, how I can tighten up the top portion, pull pressure from, you know, the top portion, my waistline versus my leg straps. It took a lot of time to dial it in, and partly because I've never hunted out of a saddle that's quite like this. But having said that, as where I am at right now, I have found that I can dial in comfort with this saddle as much as any other saddle. And I understand, I totally understand, comfort is a personal thing. For me personally, I can find that comfort, and hopefully with some of this stuff I'm putting out in the video, it will help you dial in comfort if you choose to go this path. A few things that I want to point out right now before I go inside to finish up this review in the way of comparison between like a traditional sling style saddle and this rock climbing or recreational saddle here. One of the biggest cons that you will find is when you're walking into the woods wearing the saddle, because of the leg supports, there's that tendency to rub. Now you can try to rotate them around your leg, manipulate that, but even still, it's just not as convenient as a traditional sling style saddle, not even as convenient as the Aero Hunter Strike saddle. The second con that I can foresee some people balking at or not really liking is the fact that when you step into the saddle, you have to step through the bridge and also put your foot through the leg support. And I can see that there's going to be some people that are going to find that inconvenient, and they're not going to like that. And to me, it doesn't matter. To each their own. I respect all of the differences. I can just foresee some people not really liking that. For me personally, the comfort that you can gain when you dial in this saddle, it outweighs the fact that I would have to step through the leg loops. I have found that the blue material with the white stars, if you're not always using a headlamp, that gives you a pretty good indication. Even in low light in the dark, you can look down and you can see that. And so you don't always need a flashlight if you're in the dark to put your legs through that strap. So I have found that to be convenient. The third area that would be a con, so to speak, is the weight. It comes in at 2.8 pounds. Of course, I've added a few things. Mine's closer to 3 pounds, 3.4 pounds or something like that. I don't really find the weight when you're wearing it to be an issue. It's kind of, you know, a piece of you just like any other saddle, but it's not as lightweight as just say my Latitude Method 2 saddle or a custom gear modification saddle, so on and so forth. So the weight portion, if you're like super nitpicky about your weight, this might not be for you. For me personally, I'm willing to give any saddle a try, and again, these cons I feel like can be outweighed by the pros of this saddle. By the way of pros, when you dial in this saddle, I feel like because there is no pressure on the ball joint of your hip, and also the way that the top portion distributes the weight so you have no pressure on your iliac crest, I have found that this saddle can be adjusted and be as comfortable as any other saddle that is out there, at least that I have tried. This is at the top in regards to dialing in the comfort. I've also found that when you rappel out of the tree, there is not a saddle out there that I have used that is as comfortable and gives you as much support as the Rev saddle, because of how the leg supports are right under your butt and on the back of your thighs. Rappelling out of the tree and one stick climbing with this saddle is an absolute breeze. It's the top in its class in regards to comfort. At this point in time now in the video, I have edited at least 15 additional minutes out of this video. I'm trying to keep it as short and concise as I can, but yet still give you enough information to get started and to minimize your learning curve. As always, if there's anything that I have overlooked, any questions that you have that I did not cover, drop them in the comment section below and I will do everything I can to answer those questions. And until next time, good luck to you.